Today we have a really awesome topic that we are going to be discussing. Working out your eyes for maximum gains. Again, I have this PowerPoint presentation on my screen, so I'm going to be looking occasionally on my screen so that I make sure that I don't forget any juicy details for you guys. I'm then going to be giving this same live on Facebook, and we'll be posting the slides on Facebook as well. Joining me now is the posture coach, and let me just see if I can add him to this live. Lar is basically one of our a student that took our programs, the Posturepro method, back in 2017. We were saying 2018, and he has a whole bunch of goodies. Hey, Lar, to share with you guys. How you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
Yeah, not too shabby, not too shabby. It's minus 20 here.
Oh, I was just trying to look out the window. Is that snow out there?
That is snow. I won't open the blinds for you because you'll be petrified. But
we had it for about 2 days here. That was about it.
Yeah, that's about it for me and my animals as well. We just snip it of the window and then see ya. The nose out, and then we come back in. How you doing? How's it going over there?
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm just going to see if I can put my volume up here so I can hear you better. So this is a long time live that we've been wanting to do together. So I want to thank you for joining. I love for you to share your experience with the auditors that are watching. But before we do that, I want to give you guys a brief introduction about what the Posturepro method does. Basically, to simplify things, the information that goes into your brain is processed by sensory receptors. And if the information going into the brain is off kilter, then the way that you're going to stand and the way that you're going to move is going to be off. And this is true for any sports. This is true for global health, and this is true for children. So I launched an online course that does talk about how babies learn and how humans learn how to move. But today we're going to be talking specifically about how your eyes can potentially affect your reaction time, your strength, your performance, your posture, and pretty much affect your entire brain. So that's really an important topic. And I know that you had experience, Lar, with the Posturepro method back in Ireland. Maybe you want to share a little bit about what you do with the...
I'll share real quick, actually, just a quick one about how I came across this and how you have helped me. First of all, was when I met you in London that time, when you invited me over and helped me out massively. Like everyone, I suppose I was really into it from my own point of view, because where I came from, I had to have a double lung transplant with cystic fibrosis, so my breathing was bad. As a result, I had shocking posture. So I was always trying to think to myself, oh, I'll do my back exercises and I'll fix my posture. And then when I had transplant and I became engrossed in doing so many courses and stuff like that, when I did the courses, I'd always be picking up different things, but there was always something missing.
Right.
And when I did your course, I remember you saying to me that this is like a chapter out of the whole fitness industry that was just left out, that was never put in. And that was always stuck in my brain, because when I went back to Ireland, I was doing personal training and stuff. I couldn't actually watch what was happening around me in other gyms, because I was training in a gym, training people where I could see other people training other people, and I just was looking at this kind of going, oh, and it was getting at me, because there's people squatting and wanting to get big numbers all the time, and squatting heavy and stuff like that with the pelvis out of line, and you could see it a mile off. And I was always one for spotting this. Or you could even, my issue would be, even at the moment, I would be, one of my best attributes would probably be spotting something with someone and being able to work with them. But it's the science behind it that I'm probably not great at being able to explain. So that's where you can really help here. But when you were talking in London, when we were over there, and it was an intense couple of days, but the information was just unbelievable. Blew my mind completely, and how I seen the industry and fitness at all. But one thing I really noticed was, and you didn't really go into it too much, was in terms of fighters. and how we calculate distance. I remember you were talking about one of the basketball players you had, and how they calculate distance. And so now, since I've done this, I brought it into the general public and stuff all the time. And for the last 3 years, to be honest with you, I've more or less sort of researched everything, and I've done so many sort of freebies and stuff like this, where I was just observing people. I worked with top level fighters, Bellator fighters and stuff like this, who were smart enough to take this on. I also spoke to Paddy Houlihan, former UFC fighter, and he's a coach now in SBG D24. And Paddy loved this. And the reason why Paddy loves this, and some of the really smart trainers and fighters love this, is because they're open-minded to looking at this. If it's bullshit, I want them to call me on the bullshit so that I can actually question it. Like, but I think there is a little bit of ego in the fight game that I want to break this ego down, because what I see is people sort of looking and saying, well, if my coach isn't telling me that, then that mustn't be true. Or a famous fighter once said to me, he's probably watching, oh, well, if Dan Healy, who's he's a brain injury specialist, basically, Professor Dan Healy in Dublin, if he hasn't said this, well, then why are we not doing it? Like, or if he, if he gives the go ahead. And so that's where I would love to see you explain it, because, I'd have certain learning difficulties. And when I was talking to you the other night, I was portraying this to you, and you're like, that's exactly it. What I was, from my version of it, like, so my version of it, when I'm saying to fighters, is if your eyes are off slightly, which most fighters are because they become so dominant, is how you strike is going to be off. How you land your foot to reach and strike, you're talking millimeters. And Paddy Houlihan was mad about this, because he was, we went up there and we did a few sessions where we put eye patches on the dominant eye, let's say, and we just did passing drills with a ball and stuff like that, just to see how the guys would get on. And I went down a treat as well. It was a fun game as well. But yeah, that's my experience from this. I've got so much out of this so far, and I can post pictures after it where, like, not even fighters, like, I'm talking general people coming to me, where the difference is literally 1 hour. Crazy difference in 1 hour, like it's mental, like, it blows your mind, almost to the fact where, and it's non-evasive. I didn't put someone on the ground and stand on their back, or anything like that. And I do be saying to a couple of runners that came to me, and they were like, oh, well, I go down the road and I get a massage and I feel great. And I'm saying, yeah, that's great. But as soon as you walk out of that, and there's some great people doing that kind of work, but as soon as you walk out of there, if one eye is diverting away and you're running on a road, you're literally pulling yourself out of posture straight away as soon as you leave the room, So I would love you to explain to me.
Yeah, well, you said so many things, and I'm thinking I should be writing this down, because I'm probably going to forget all of the points that I'd love to tap in. The first thing is I'd like to say is, when we talk about vision, we're not talking about refraction, right? And we're talking about the eye muscles, and those eye muscles borrow the same neurological pathways in your brain that control the intrinsic muscles of your spine. So because we are human, and what makes us human is the fact that we can speak and write and stand upright, then there needs to be a system that's put in place in our brain that allows us to fight gravity efficiently. And because we walk with our feet and not on our butt or on our hands like we used to millions of years ago, the strike of the foot on the ground has a reaction force that goes all the way up to our brain, all the way up to our head. And that reaction force, there's different systems. Again, I'm going to try to really oversimplify this in your brain that need to be able to stabilize your vision, your eyeball in the socket. Otherwise, your eyes, I think we've all experienced this when we're jogging, the world kind of goes up and down like that. If it goes up and down like that, then we kind of feel sick, because then our vestibular system kind of kicks in. Well, that's not supposed to happen. Your eyes are supposed to be able to stay fixated on a specific target. Without that, there needs to be suppression mechanisms that allows your vision to stay spot on the target. So when we talk about imbalances in the body, if you have an imbalance with your feet, that heel strike is going to go all the way up to your head. That's going to create asymmetry between the left side and the right side of your body. If on top of that, your eyes are not tracking the horizon properly, your eye muscles are not working symmetrically together, then that's further going to create problems. So in essence, how many joints are located between your eyes and the bottom of your foot? All of them. So for those that are having a hard time understanding, yeah, but what does my brain have to do with muscles? The best example that I can give you, when someone has a stroke, what happens? One side of their body is paralyzed because your brain controls everything. So from that perspective, what I loved about our talk, Lar, because we spoke and we could have spoken for forever, really, is that in the fitness industry, this is still fairly unknown. And that really is a shame, because again, it's not that we have anything against muscles. We love muscles, right? But the muscle is subservient to the brain. It responds to the commands of the brain. And unfortunately, if you've been walking with a misalignment for more than 365 days, this is not my opinion, this is science, then the adaptation of your muscle, the actin and myosin, the fascia, the ligaments, the joints, all of that is going to adapt into an adaptive, pathological type like of posture. So you're not going to be aware of it unless you kind of look at a selfie of yourself and say, oh, look at that, my head's crooked. Look at that, my shoulder's lower. You may be aware of it because you see it on pictures, but when you're actually standing, you're not aware that you're standing crooked. And that's the missing link. That really is the missing link in every single sport out there. If you give an athlete who already has a superior nervous system, they have to have massive cerebellar function in order to be able to move in the way that they do. If you give them that tweak, that little edge, then you've created a superhuman. That's going to be the athlete on steroids without the.
It's that extra, that millimeter of a difference, and in the fight game, that's what they're always talking about, that millimeter. So like I see some fighters, they train 2 and 3 times a day, but yet they're not training their eyes efficiently enough, I don't feel. And they might say, oh, well, I'm doing head drills, I'm doing movement. Yeah, that's right. But you're doing it in the form of, let's say, you're doing it with that imbalance, like, so you're almost getting used to that, and then they get into, I say to some fighters as well that when you step into, let's say, an octagon, we'll say that, the amount of things that you're trying to, your eyes are scanning. You're scanning the floor, you're scanning the walls of the octagon, you're scanning the referee as a potential danger, you're scanning the opponent's foot, ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, head movement, hands movement. So if we're not working in sync with these eyes, the glycogen is going to deplete quicker in the eyes. Am I right in saying that? Like,
well, your glycogen is going to deplete quicker in your body. The energy reserve that you have in your cell, on a cellular level, is going to deplete much quicker because you're wasting you're not fighting gravity efficiently, right? We have a certain amount of energy that is allocated to each and every one of us per day. And depending on the integrity of our nervous system, keep in mind that everyone's different. We all have a different brain. We all have a different nervous system, but your eyes are the windows to your brain. So it's important that if you do suspect that there's something wrong with your eyes, I do want to mention that you need to clear it with a specialist, an ophthalmologist, or see a doctor of functional neurology, when we're talking about concussion. But in the event that everything is okay and we are talking about a diverging eye, then this can be very, very quickly addressed through the Posturepro method. And like you said, the results, you were generous by saying an hour, because the results that we really see, the speed of the nervous system is 114 meters per second. And not that we want to sound unrealistic, because to say that we can create changes in 5 seconds seems to be a little pompous of a claim. But again, these are things that we see live with or without people that are with us as this is happening. And this is simply because once you understand how the nervous system functions, And we're not asking you to become a neurologist here. We're asking you to have a basic understanding of a step-by-step approach of what you need to do in order to produce those changes. Then it really does become really quite simple to create those really, really quick changes and amazing changes with virtually anyone.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions that have come in as well. I put them up here on the board. Oh yeah, so yeah, again, you've kind of already answered that. One guy said, but my eyes are fine. My eyesight is good. He goes and gets his eyes checked and his eyesight is fine. But that doesn't mean, obviously, then that he doesn't. You've already kind of said that there a few minutes ago.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to see, because I'm just discovered here. Let me pull a picture of the screen. I don't want you guys, and I've noticed that this is going down, my image. You see, this is what we're talking about here, is your vision might be 20/20, but as you can see on your screen, his left eye, right, is pointing outward. So for everyone that's watching now, this is what I want you guys to ask yourself. I'm going to talk in reference to the guy on the screen. His left eye is diverging, is not looking at the tip of the pen, and his right eye is looking at the tip of the pen. Do we agree that these are two different images that are being processed in the eyeball? If we all agree to that, then we can then conclude that the image, which goes to the back of the brain, is not the same. So therefore your brain is going to naturally neutralize temporarily the image of the eye that is looking outwards. Why is this important? Because in a sporting environment, right, when we're training and when we're working out, we're going, vision trumps all other senses. So you are going to move based on what you see, based on your reality. But if your reality is off kilter on one side, but you're not aware of it, then you're not going to move as efficiently as you possibly can. And this, quite frankly, may lead to, it actually always leads to injury, whether it be knee injury, whether it be a lower back injury. All of the intrinsic muscles of your spinal cord will contract asymmetrically. There needs to be symmetry in the body from a strength perspective, And I know that most people, because it's common, we tend to think that because most people do not have symmetry, we tend to think it's normal. It's not normal, it's common. That's the big difference, because we can change that again at 114 meters per second.
Yeah, because I had another question then. It was obviously, oh yeah, how long would it take, again, to notice the difference if I started to train my eyes? So this person is a fighter, actually. He's quite high level fighter, and he was very interested in this as well. He wanted to stay anonymous, but that was fine too.
What's the question again? What is he asking?
It was basically, how long would it take, like if he was doing eye training, how long would it take to notice the difference? So the answer would be pretty quick, in terms of.
This is what I love to do with athletes or with someone that doesn't have pain. It could be challenging to have them feel it in their body, but where you'll notice the most difference is in range of motion, right? So find an area that you are restricted in range of motion, whether it be shoulder flexion, trunk rotation, hip flexion, knee flexion, whatever, just find an area, test before and after. And I would even go as far as saying, if you have a dynamometer test, even test strength. Test your strength before and after doing the eye exercises. And you can even check your blood pressure, believe it or not. Because the eyes have a direct impact on the sympathetic system, and this is proven and this is known in the world of neurology, you may even see a difference there. So we're talking about 35 seconds, 1 minute at the most. Now, keep in mind that the eye exercises have to be done in a specific way, and I do give a lot of tips. There's different types of exercises that we can do depending on the criteria that we find in clinic. And that is, again, what we teach in the Posturepro method. But in the immediate, you can start doing little, circles as I've done on my TED Talk. This information is free. It's out there. You can test it. You can test it on yourself. And then, quite frankly, when I post this video, I'd love to know what you guys are, your comments, what results you've had. And yes, let it shine. Let it shine.
I think the pen test would be a great one for people at home to start doing is to record themselves doing the convergence test towards themselves, up and in, and to look at the tip of the pen, record, have a look, zoom in. That's what I usually do if I have someone that I'm chatting to that's I can't get to over lockdown or whatever it may be, like, you know. Reaction time. Here's another one. Brain injury, right? So I've got a client that has a bad brain injury and then had a stroke. But I've never seen anyone work as hard in the gym and push themselves mentally strong. This man is unbelievable. But the crazy thing with him, well, it's not crazy because you know this, but so when he stands up, when I get him to stand up, he's on a walking frame. When he stands up, his knees hyperextend. He's no control, so I'm constantly at him, right? And he knows this. He'll probably be laughing now. But it's so funny when, let's say we're doing a low row on the machine. Left hand side of the body is so weak and shaky. When I use the spiky ball roller, I just roll it on his skin, on his left hand side of his body, and straight away, boom, his grip changes and straight in. So before we do any standing, I had him roll out his feet with the spiky ball. I just get him to tap his feet a couple of times, almost reminding his brain, this is what's happening. We're going to go there. We're going to move. And when he stands, it's completely different. So, you know, I know it's difficult to go into with brain injuries and stuff like that, because the worst thing, what we don't want is anyone with a brain injury watching this and trying to stand up off the chair at the moment. But what advice could you give in terms of that, like if anyone is, because I know I will be sending this on to people that look after people in that sort of with those injuries.
So yeah, well, the first thing is obviously he has to be followed by a doctor in conjunction with yourself. My first advice is always prevention. So when the nervous system is primed as much as it could be before the traumatic brain injury, let's say it's inevitable, it's going to happen regardless of, then you want to be able to give the athlete or the person, it doesn't have to be an athlete or anyone, any individual, all of the chances on their side to be able to not only move as quickly as they can to kind of try to avoid the injury, but then boom, if it does happen, you don't want the nervous system to be overly compromised, because then it might be the concussion and the injury might be worse for that person than it normally would have been. But again, in all cases, there's different protocols that you can do when there is a traumatic brain injury. And I would say that you'd have to start off slow and speak with your client and see, how comfortable they feel with the exercises that you're prescribing. But at the end of the day, even working with the proprioceptive insoles is going to have an effect on the way that their eyes move. So some people are very sensitive to light or sound after a traumatic brain injury, or even moving their eyes makes them feel nauseous. Stimulating the skin of the foot with the proprioceptive insoles is a great way to, start targeting indirectly the visual system, and then start to incorporate eye exercises very slowly. I just want to say there's a question here before I continue. Someone wants to know about the magnets. In some of my videos, I do use a magnet because I want to give an additional, I want to stretch the rectus lateralis on the side of that eye. So I'm using a magnet therapy to create an additional stretch in conjunction with the eye exercises. And I'm using a strength of 1400 Gauss, that's Gauss, to do so.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, there's eye training, I'm just reading the question here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that question, or is it on mine?
I can't see any of your questions now.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone is on my page, question away,
Yeah,
ask
sure.
away.
Tell me.
The other thing, actually, what I wanted to touch on, because I know there's a lot of people here that have had surgeries and stuff in the past. I remember with me, especially because of my scarring, you used half a bottle of helichrysum on me, but it's expensive stuff. But I remember, so I got a bottle of this stuff, and one of these fires that I had and I was working on, I was doing it for free just to get experience myself. Because if this is bullshit, I want someone to call me on it, and so far no one has, because the facts are there, it's happening in front of you. So this guy, his mobility in his shoulder, he could move his arm from about here, okay? And I was looking at him, and he says, you won't be able to fix that. I go to all the top people in Dublin. And I go, all right, sure, let me have a look at you there. And he had his top on, and I was like, right. I said, take off your top for me for a second. Straight away, boom, he had his appendix out. Scar. And I was like, it's the first person I'm using it on. Let me get my little case here, you know. Took out my helichrysum oil, put the oil on the scar. We did a little bit more eye training, a few eye exercises. I had the insoles on him as well. We're walking up and down the gym. Came back and his arm was, boom. He couldn't believe it. He was in shock. He could not believe that this was happening.
That's exactly how, and you know, that's really great. I love to hear stories like that, because it really is so simple once you understand the process behind it. For those that are watching that, you know, have no idea what we're talking about, a scar and oil and so on and so forth. Well, scars that don't heal properly can create abnormal muscle tension as well. It's certainly the experience that I had with Charles Poliquin when I first met him. He was referred to me by Francine Savard, who at the time said, you know, you got, I had no idea who he was. She's like, you have to see this coach, this guy that travels around the world for shoulder pain, and, you know, no one can fix it. And, you know, I'm sure you're going to be able to help him with your method. And Lord and behold, when I'm thinking in my head, I'll correct the foot, I'll do the eyes, piece of cake, and, you know, we'll get that over with. And of course, that didn't work. And when I said to him, well, you know, I'm thinking, because now I understand the links and how the nervous system functions. I said, well, do you have any scars? And he took off his shirt, and I saw the massive scar, and we got all of the results only by treating his scar again. And that took 1 minute. And I have the video of him just going, like, his face dropped. He went in full shoulder flexion. He was like, wow, holy shit. And he was, you know, from that point on, he was our biggest endorser. But all this to say that one of the last things that Charles did say to me before he passed, because there is a question by Jacques B. MMA, is that I wanted to know with those athletes that he was able to get at a higher peak performance, either with the insoles or the eye exercises. I want to mention that doing the eye exercises alone will create changes, but if the foot is not corrected, if the foot is not neutralized, if you're walking around with uneven weight-bearing surfaces on your feet, if it's already adapted, doing eye exercises alone cannot reverse that. Why? Because the amount of time that you're going to spend doing the eye exercises cannot undo the amount of time that you spend walking on your feet per day. So it's like the scales are way off. So unless you're doing eye exercises all day long for like 17 hours, then, you know, we can say that we even that out, but that's not possible. So you have to neutralize your foot. And with Charles, he had noticed all of the changes and comments that I would get with Charles was strictly from foot correction, no eye exercises. And what he had confirmed was the gains that the athletes got at that point in time. So let's say they got stronger by 15%. Not only did they keep those gains, but they started building new strength, new plateaus from that new point of strength. And I said, Charles, what you're saying now is absolutely massive. And I need you to do a video about this, because, you know, people need to know this. And unfortunately, he didn't have time, or, you know, did not send me, didn't have a chance to send the video. So there you go. How long will the results last? That's going to depend again on everyone's nervous system. There are no guarantees in life. But we do know that if you keep on wearing the foot correction, and it's not for life, it's for a minimum of 6 weeks to a maximum of a year. There are cases that do have exceptions, and if you do that in conjunction with the eye exercises, you know, the degree of difference may always be better off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in terms of as well, I had people ask me as well, you know, you could have fighters and they're on the mats, well, before COVID, obviously, they're on the mats maybe 4 hours a day in their bare feet. So that's great anyway if they're in their bare feet, but also outside of that, they can also be helping themselves. And like, you see it so much, like their pelvis is just like, they'll have a right posterior glute or a left posterior glute, massive difference. And their projection of power when they drive forward to throw a punch is like, that's the difference in landing that killer punch or that knockout blow, or landing but wasting energy. They might be hitting a target, but wasting that bit of energy they have. I'm always trying to push that with them, you know, because I know in my head what I'm trying to put to them. I'm like, oh my God, you need to listen to this. But I think we are getting a good response from it, you know. And I suppose if there's any more questions after this chat, people can send them in. Reaction time. I think we've covered any questions I have. We've kind of covered like the energy levels and stuff like that as well.
And that's amazing. I'll be downloading this video because apparently we can't post these videos on our stories anymore, but we can download them for, you know, reasons that are just mysterious and unknown. But I will download the video and post it on Instagram, and I will do a Zoom right after this to show specifically because, you know, on Instagram, it's not really convenient to put those slides there. But I'll do the Zoom on, you know, kind of like a little presentation that does talk about the eyes and, you know, go through it a little bit more in details. Before we go, I do want to say that I know that you spoke about doing an eye app. And this is something that we have been working ourselves at Posturepro and trying to do not only with our clients, but with athletes. And we will be launching this. Here it is. It's called the Brainpro Eye Training App. And we'll be launching this. It's good for kids. It's good for adults. It's good for athletes. And it's really it does really help address the visual system. I'm just trying to pull it over here. And can you see that clearly on here?
Looks good.
So specifically designed to train your brain through purposefully timed eye movements and coordinated touch exercises through a metronome. And that really is what a key component in integrating different brain regions and connecting different brain regions together. So we'll keep you posted on that. It should be soon, within 2-3 months. It's been a little while already that we're waiting for the app to come out, but we're very excited about it, and of course we'll announce it as soon as it goes live.
Great stuff.
On that note, thank you so much.
You're very good. Thanks a million for that. And I suppose, and just throw it out there to anyone that's watching from my side. If you haven't seen Annette's TED Talks, that's where I first saw it, and I was just blown away by it. So that's on YouTube, and also follow you obviously on Instagram and Facebook as well, and see the rest of the videos. So thanks a million, Annette.
Thank you, Lauren. Likewise, everybody else, please share. I mean, together we're stronger, and knowledge is power. So the more people know this, the more people spread and talk about the science, the better off I think that we will all be, because of the effects that just being better aligned and aligned spine just lights up the brain. So thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Great Sunday, everybody.
Bye-bye.